Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Pro Talk, where I talk with people in my life who are a pro or an expert at whatever they do, whether it be their work, their jobs, their careers, their ministries, passions, hobbies, anything in their life that they're good at. I want to find out more about. Today I have the privilege and honor of talking to somebody who does not live in Georgia with me. I have traveled a good little distance to come here back to South Carolina and talk with somebody who has been in real estate for a while, somebody who is a advocate for a lot of people, somebody who has the biggest heart in the world that I've ever known. Please welcome Rochelle Rennert. Thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you, Adrienne. I appreciate all of that.
So today I want to talk about just your time in real estate, your upbringing a little, just really who you are, how you got to where you are, personality, all those kinds of things. Talk to me. Let's start in the very beginning of when you were younger. Talk to me about your upbringing, kind of the lessons that you learned in life, who taught you those things, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, I definitely attribute most of my life and its path to my parents, who had a very strong relationship with their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And they brought us up in the church, raised us in the church, and just wanted that above all things for us. They instilled in me and my brother that if you follow the Lord, then put His will for your life first, then no matter how wonky that path might look or ups and downs might come, life was going to be good.
Yeah.
Not perfect, not easy, but it was going to be good. And I don't know, they just made that very real in our life. They were never pushing us to go to church. They never really did a lot of we didn't do like family Bible studies that you hear a lot of families do.
Everybody get in the living room and everybody take a verse or two.
Yes.
We did that.
We didn't. Okay. and it was unusual, I think, at that time too, to be in a very strong Christian home and in the church, but they served and they were always serving. It was always about that. And then every morning I would find my mom at the dining room table with her Bible and in prayer, and they just lived it for us.
Yeah.
And that was something that they really believed in. They really tried to focus us in that. And when I was about 16, I wanted to know for sure that I knew for sure what I knew.
Sure.
Okay. And my mom actually got a little bit of flack for this, but I went to her and I said, I want to go and visit other churches.
Okay.
And I want to see what other things believe, what other religions believe, what other churches teach, all of that. And she let me.
You wanted to make your faith your own.
Absolutely. I wanted to know that I knew that I knew. And she let that happen. And she had a lot of friends that were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And she said, well, because it's got to be real. She's got to know that this isn't just something we've told her or showed, or just shown her. It's got to be real for her.
Yeah.
And it did. It just really solidified that for me.
That's crazy that happened at 16, because most 16-year-olds, especially nowadays, we were talking about one earlier, they don't know who they are. They kind of just, in some ways, fly by the seat of their pants, just hang on to whatever their parents are teaching them or whatever the world is telling them to do. But you kind of went against that and you thought, no, I know what I want to, I know what I want to know, and I know what I want to learn. And you set out to do that.
Absolutely. I've always been pretty strong-willed, but I actually appreciate that. I always have to laugh at Dr. Dobson that wrote the book about the strong-willed child.
Okay.
All those years ago, and years later, when I was pregnant with each of my children, I prayed for strong-willed children.
Yeah.
Because I knew,
they are,
and I knew that it might be tough and it might be a little challenging while they're young. Yeah. But once I did my job, to raise them up in the way they should go, to teach them and train them, to pray over them, and I knew that they would hold on to what they had held on to, and then they would hold on to it for life.
Yeah.
And that was my whole point. And my mom did the same. She had 2 strong-willed children as well, and she just prayed. And she told those women in her group, she said, we're going to allow her to do this, but we're also going to pray that the Lord is going to keep her under his wing and where she needs to be. And it was great because it became very apparent very quickly that what I believed was truth. And it was very interesting, just to have that ability to have that freedom, to have parents that understood that. Yeah. Parents that truly understood the gospel of free will and that we do have that free will. And so it was good. It was good. But I had parents who talked about everything, prayed about everything together, that just they were in love with each other and in love with the Lord, and just modeled their life in service. So I credit them to everything, honestly. I mean, they just were incredible parents and really just taught us, and they lived it. Yeah. So, that helps.
Don't just do what I say, do what I do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I wish more parents could be like that.
I agree. I agree.
So we're going to talk about real estate because you are very good at what you do, and we're going to talk about how you got into that. But talk to me about when you were a little bit older, maybe college age, kind of figuring out what you wanted to do. Was real estate your first thing that you wanted to do? And if not, what was it and why did you want to do that? Okay.
So no, real estate was not really on my radar. Not as I was starting college. Starting college was a little tough for me. I was going to be one of the first in my family to go. Okay. And I was always interested in everything. Yep. I like a lot of different things. And my stepmom, and I'll explain that in a minute. Yeah. But my stepmom has called me for years a word that she just says embodies me, but her word for me is capable. And she has said to me for years, you can do anything you've ever tried to do, and you seem to do it well. And while that is a blessing, I'm not going to knock that by any means. At 17 and 18, that can be kind of tough because it's hard for you to narrow down what you want to do.
Well, and a lot of times when you're 17 and 18, you've been told that, it kind of goes to your head, and then you make mistakes, and then you kind of get in over your head.
Absolutely.
Which can be a good thing and bad thing. You can learn from that, but also if you're not careful, you can really take a fall with it.
You can, absolutely. So for me, it was very difficult trying to pick a major. I wanted to do everything. So my freshman year of college, I took a lot of courses because I was pre-law, pre-med, pre-pharmacy, vocal performance, and counseling major. So I
probably two of those are in the same family, but everything else was like, you're here, you're there, everywhere.
That's right. So it was very interesting because I was very interested in medicine. I had worked in a pharmacy for a few years. At that time, my mother actually had terminal cancer. So I was helping to take care of her quite a bit, and just really becoming very familiar with pharmaceuticals, and then the whole medical world in regards to her treatments and her cancer and her situation. I loved the law. Yeah. It's always intrigued me. I liked not to argue for the sake of argument, but for the sake of ideas, for the sake of, what else is out there, to see the other side to things. I've always enjoyed that. I like different viewpoints. My family was, my dad was military, so we traveled a lot. So I got to see a lot of the world and a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different cultures. So the law was always intriguing to me because it's just so applicable and black and white. And yet life doesn't always seem to be so.
We're always told to abide by the law, but the law can't always be the one thing to abide in, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah. So,
in Adrian's opinion.
No, you're good. But yeah, and it's always changing, right? We're always changing, and so it was always good. And then the counseling side was from the time I was very little. I always seemed to attract strangers on the beach, in towns. My friends in high school called me the weirdo magnet, because of course teenagers being who they are. But we would set up a blanket on the beach, and every homeless person for hundreds of yards would find their way to my blanket, and just talk to me. My dad and I, everybody said we could talk to a stranger. We never knew a stranger. We could talk to walls, you know, that type of a situation.
I always tell people I can make a stick talk back to me if I need to. I will talk to somebody or something, and it will talk back to me.
Yeah. So that, that was kind of that purpose all through high school. People would come to me with their problems or their issues or questions. And, now at 48, if I had $1 for every person that said to me, I'm not really sure why I just said all that to you or told you all of that, I'd probably be a millionaire. Just unreal the amount of times that's been said to me. That's where I started. I was just taking as many classes as possible to try and narrow it down. Like, what do I really want to spend my life doing? But with my mom's terminal cancer, I would go to school for a bit. I would come home, help take care of her, work, save up money to then put myself through another semester of school when she would go in remission. And so then that became kind of a revolving thing for about 6 years, from 16 to 22. She passed when I was 22. I was just in and out of school and in and out of being back home to take care of Mom. So that really did change a lot of my trajectory. Changed what was important. At one point, Mom had really wanted me to go to Nashville and just sing and see what happened. But
you grew up in Tennessee?
I didn't actually, but my whole family is from Tennessee, and my dad was Air Force. So we lived all over the world. And at that time in high school, we were in Florida.
That's what I thought. But I'm going to talk about military life in a second, but I just wanted to find out. I couldn't remember. I knew that you had family in Tennessee, but I couldn't remember where you were on the map.
Absolutely. And we've been all over. So it's kind of hard sometimes for me to keep track. But that was kind of my trajectory, was trying to figure out what level of either the medical profession or counseling, or if I was going to follow a dream of singing at the time. But Mom took precedence, the Lord just really laid it on my heart that I needed to be with her and spend time with her, that there was time later for school, there was time later for dreams, and, there wasn't probably going to be time later with her. And we were very lucky to have 6 years with her before she passed. So I don't regret that a bit, and it did allow me time to kind of really take a step back and try and figure out, okay, what do I really want to be doing with my life? So you talked about growing up military, and then you said you traveled all over the world and you figured out what you want. You jumped through different areas of like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Talk to me about meeting Ryan, your husband, who is military. Was it easy? Because you're not just a pro or an expert in real estate, you've also have been a military wife for a long time. Talk to me about meeting him and establishing that life. Was it easy for you to be with somebody who was also military, or was it hard for you to kind of get into that world and kind of make it your own? Talk to me about that. Okay. Well, when I was 21, Mom was getting better. She was in remission and doing pretty well. And I was living at home, and I really was feeling the weight at that point about trying to work and pay my way through school, trying to help them with bills, things like that. So at that point is when I decided I was going to go start talking to recruiters. Military seemed like the next logical step. I could get my school paid for. And I had narrowed it down to the Navy. I wanted to go in and be a diver. I was also a swimmer in school. So with the Navy, I told them, I said, I'd really like to do something that'll keep me in the water. I'd like to still be swimming. I want to be, in shape. I want to be in the water, something that keeps me doing that. And at that same time frame, my brother had joined the Navy, and he was in the nuclear power program. And at that time, it was still in Orlando, which was very close to where we lived in the Cocoa Beach area.
Okay.
And he started coming home to see my mom on weekends and brought his roommate, which is my husband.
Wow, okay.
So they were the only two guys in their class that went to church.
Okay.
And my brother had a 2-seater car. And my husband did not have a car at the time. So in order for him to go to church, he had to ride home because my brother was coming home to see my mom, and he would spend the weekend and then go to church with us. And so that's how I met Ryan.
Okay.
So we kind of got thrown into each other's, sphere at that time. And I was very intrigued, and I was very confused for a bit. I was praying. I was like, all right, Lord, I was really ready to join the Navy, but maybe I'm going in as a spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to be doing a different angle.
Which that's its own. It's funny. I was talking to, I interviewed my pastor on one episode, and then I also interviewed his wife on a different episode, because he's been in ministry for almost 50 years, and his wife has been a pastor's wife, and we always say, like, okay, pastors have a calling, but also pastors' wives have a calling. And I feel people who go in the military have a calling, and also if you're a military spouse, whether it be you're the husband or you're the wife or whatever, that's a calling as well, because it's not just something you should just say, okay, cool, yeah, this will be easy. It's challenging. I would think.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, it can be a very tough life, and especially if you go in it with the wrong expectation.
Yeah.
Expectation is good. And having grown up in that life, I felt like I had a good expectation of it. So we were married. We dated for just about a year, a little over a year. And in that time, my mother passed away. And then we got married. And that was kind of the catalyst for possibly doing real estate. We got married and got stationed in Georgia, just up the coast from my dad. So I was spending a lot of time when my husband was deployed with my dad.
Okay.
And we bought our first house. We were 24 and 22 when we bought our first house. And it was a good experience, but a little bit challenging. And there were some kind of iffy things in that situation. And when we sold our house, we used the same agent that we had used to buy it.
Yeah.
And it didn't go so great, but I didn't understand real estate very well. And I left the closing table just a little confused as to what had just happened. And at that time, we had a 6-week-old baby. Our oldest was 6 weeks old, and we were moving to Charleston. And I drove into town with that 6-week-old baby and signed up for a real estate school because I just was left with a bad taste in my mouth with that situation.
Yeah.
And that's actually how real estate started for me. I was just going to real estate school to learn about real estate so that I could understand why I had such a very unsettled feeling about our transaction.
Sure.
And to just learn better so that we would be better prepared and, better educated and knowledgeable on our next purchase because we were planning to purchase another home.
Yeah.
And that was really how it all started. I just really thought I'm going to learn about this, and then I'm going to figure out how to go to pharmacy school or finish my degree while we're in Charleston.
Yeah. So you still wanted to do one of the 20 things that you had sought out to do.
They were still on my radar. But we got here, and I was taking those classes and realized I was very interested in it and kind of had a natural knack for everything I was learning. It had a lot to do with people, which I love. It had to do a lot with service because you are serving the public. There's a lot of law, and I love the law. So there's a lot of legal in there.
So you kind of do a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. So I really started making those connections. And by the time I finished, you know how this works. I don't know if the public does, but as you're finishing up with your licensing, you have to choose a broker to work under. So I went and talked to a few different brokers, and Ralph Wetherell at Agent Owned, who I still work at. And Ralph was a part-time pastor which also resonated with me. He had a faith in the Lord, and I knew that that was somebody who was going to have integrity that I could work under in character. And you have to choose someone. Your license has to hang under a brokerage. So I chose agent-owned. They also didn't have any, you didn't have to have specific goals that you had to meet. You didn't have to be in office all the time.
Right.
And with a 6-week-old, well, by this time, I think Donovan was probably about 4 months old. By the time I finished and started, it just was a good fit for me.
Yeah.
Very family-oriented, local company that I just really felt at home with.
Yeah. Did you use agent-owned did you use an agent here when you bought your first house here in South Carolina?
Actually, we did.
Okay.
And that was interesting because, it kind of just all fit.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever asked you that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first hung my license, again, I really wasn't thinking of truly working it.
Yeah.
And about 2 months into it, Ralph just approached me and said, why don't you just send out some mailers to your neighborhood?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, I can do that. And at this time, I'm still looking into school, trying to figure out how to do that with a baby.
Yep.
And I sent out mailers to our neighborhood, and I got calls almost immediately for listings.
Yeah.
And went back to Ralph and was like, wow, this is actually happening. This is really kind of taking off.
Yeah.
And immediately realized, hey, this is actually going to be able to pay for diapers and, food and help us with gas prices. And at the time, we only had one car. And I thought, well, this is probably going to actually help us get a second vehicle. And, and things just really organically took shape. And I was having several sales and thought, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not a salesperson. There's probably only 3 things I joke about all the time that I could sell you, and that's Jesus, a house, and a Toyota, because I think you need that relationship with God, and I think everybody needs a place to live. And everyone needs a reliable vehicle. And for my family, that's Toyota. So, it just kind of started working well, and I realized I was working with military families and really trying to become for them what we hoped to have when we moved places.
Right.
Somebody to truly look out for us first, look out for our interests, help us to find something that fit our family, fit our needs, fit our pocketbook. And it just went from there. Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said that you were mainly working with military families, because a lot of times in real estate, and the public doesn't know this, or maybe not know this, maybe they do. A lot of the times everybody says, oh, I'll work with anybody. And that's the good mentality to have. But there are some agents out there that's like, oh, my niche, my area of expertise is the Latin American community who can, Gio, who is an agent here, an agent owned, her area of expertise is the Latin American community because she has that dialect. She can speak that language. Yours is military because you can get on their level and you can level with them and understand. And Arlene, she says, oh, I sell anything big or small. I sell them all. But her area of expertise is Berkeley County. And so it's interesting that you did it make more sense for you to just not necessarily just stick with military families, but did it make sense for you to kind of primarily work with that, and then anything else extra was just a bonus? Is that kind of how you maybe looked at it, or you just kind of took with what you got?
Honestly, it was just mostly because of my sphere.
Okay.
It seemed like people related to it. I put on there that I was a military spouse, and it was military spouses that were reaching out.
Yeah.
And because I had been basically changing duty stations every 3.5, 4 years my entire life, I definitely understood the ins and outs of moving, and really understood the stresses and the pressures of a new place, and the importance of finding a place to live most times very quickly. A lot of military families have about 30 days to figure it out. In our own career, I think the longest timeline that we had of knowing we were moving and where the next place was going to be was about 19 days.
Okay.
It was just, we just never knew for very long in advance.
Yeah.
it's kind of unusual, but he
Kinda
had
had to
kind
always
of
be
an
ready.
unusual career
Yeah.
in the Navy. So it's just something that we understood and we could navigate. I knew the lingo, I knew the pressure behind it, and I really enjoyed it. And that was just who we knew as well. You know, all of
Yeah.
our friends were military, and that's how we did it.
Yeah. So you were here in Charleston for a while, and then I think you have said before that you left South Carolina, went to go live other places, and then you came back to South Carolina. In those other places, did you practice real estate at other places, wherever else you lived?
I did in a couple of them. So when we left here originally, we were here 3.5 years, and we went to Washington State.
Okay.
In Washington State, my third child was born.
Okay.
So in Washington, I had 3 children under the age of 4.
Okay.
And Washington State was pretty expensive.
Yeah.
They charged quite a bit just to have an active license.
Okay.
And at the time, we just didn't have that. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have had the time. And then we ended up only being in Washington for about 16 months.
Okay.
And then we got transferred to Georgia.
Okay.
And in Georgia, I did do real estate.
Yeah.
I had a good church family there.
Yeah. What part of Georgia?
Kings Bay, Georgia. It's
Okay.
in Kingsland, St. Mary's area.
Okay.
So about 30 minutes north of Jacksonville and right over the border
Okay.
on I-95, right on the coast. Beautiful little town.
Yeah.
Love it. It's kind of a suburb of Jacksonville, or at least we considered it that. And
Yeah.
great small town feel. But I did real estate there for a bit, but it was also around the time 2008, 2009, 2010.
Yep.
So going through the real estate, crash
Yep.
that we had here nationwide, did mostly rentals during
Okay.
that time frame. Not a lot of military were buying. A
And
lot of
you don't
military.
You don't like property management rentals, that area.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. There was a lot going on during that time in real estate. It was very hard for most people, and
Mm-hmm.
really tough on a lot of military families because they had houses in other places that they couldn't sell.
Yeah.
They couldn't rent. A lot of people were getting foreclosed on because, again, they just couldn't afford it. It
Yeah.
was just a rough time. So I mostly did rentals during that time,
Mm-hmm.
but I still did that very well. I was
Yeah.
showing properties and still paying for the diapers, and by that time, formula, food, gas, our
Yeah.
date nights.
Yep.
So it really stuck.
School
And then
supplies.
School supplies,
Yep.
because we did. Donovan was in kindergarten by that time, and we ended up only being there 26 months.
Okay.
And so my husband made chief, and they came to him, and that's when we didn't have very much notice on that one. I believe it was November 10th. He called me and said they're packing us out on November 19th. It was right before
Wow.
Thanksgiving. And he said, "Do you want to go to Hawaii, Connecticut, or Virginia?" And I said, "Are you really asking that question?" And he said, "Good, because I did tell them Hawaii." So score.
That's funny.
So they were there packing us out on the 19th. We spent Thanksgiving in Virginia at his chief school. And by December 14th, we were flying out to Hawaii.
That's crazy.
So it was pretty whirlwind, but pretty great.
Yeah.
And then Hawaii, kind of the same situation. My husband was on what's called a fast attack sub,
Okay.
gone all the time. Now here we are on this island with a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and 7-year-old. And just very busy, just
Yeah.
a really, really busy life. Our first year there, he was home 80 days. Our second year, it was 85. And our third year was 86 or 87.
Wow.
And those are not consecutive.
Right.
They are intertwined in those 365 normal
Yep.
days.
Yep.
So I really felt like I didn't have time for real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And to carry a license, just your monthly fees were around $650 a month just to have a
Wow.
license. And we just didn't have that,
That's rent for a house nowadays.
well,
cheap rent. That's
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
and it was nearly rent, back then.
yeah.
Sure. So it was a lot of money, and I just thought, well, I'm not going to do this here. So
Yeah.
instead, I became an ombudsman for his boat, which is kind of a go-to, not really a counselor, but a 411, 911.
Yeah.
When the boat's out, you have any issues that are going on for anything, any reason,
Right.
this is your call.
Okay.
And so I became that for our 150 sailors.
Yeah.
and their families, and really enjoyed that. That kept me full time, and I still stayed in referral. I was still with referrals in the referral office here with Agent Owned, and had people calling about real estate from all over, and helped out as much as I could, but just wasn't actively doing it there. Yeah. And then 2014, we moved back to Charleston, and we've been here ever since. Yeah.
So, it seems like of all the things that you talked about, the jobs that you've had, the careers and everything, and like you said in the beginning, service is a big part of your lifestyle and who you are and your family. I know that for sure. Why do you think service is so important? Because a lot of people like the idea of service. They like to go out and do things for people, but they want the spotlight turned on them, or they want the attention to be on them. And you and your family and a lot of people, it's just, I'm going to do it. That's it. Why do you think it's an important thing to have in the back of your mind?
I think for us, it's just more about the mission field. It's about, being the Jesus that people can see. And for us, that is at the end of the day what it is. There are needs that need to be met today. Housing is a big one. And I don't know, I think for us, we've just always seen it as if we take care of others, God takes care of us. Yeah. And we're just called to meet the needs of those around us. And it's been very real in my life that if and when we take care of other people first, our needs are met, even if it doesn't even make sense. We've had times in our life where we helped people financially and would be down to our last $4. Yeah. Quite literally, and still be able to look around and say, but needs were met, and our needs were met, and we're good. And there's such a blessing in being able to step back and see God play that out over and over, because it becomes your peace. Yeah. And it becomes your refuge and your comfort in a very uncomfortable world. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you came back to Charleston, was it an immediate, okay, I want to get back into real estate full time, I want this to be my thing? Or were you still kind of thinking, well, I'll just do it on the side, and whatever happens, happens, and I may look at school, or I may spend time with my kids because they're getting older, and real estate may be on the side? Or did you think, no, I'm all in now that you've had a little bit of experience?
So that's fun. That's actually a fun question. So as we were leaving Hawaii, I had just found a school that was completely online, and I was thinking, I'm going to finish my counseling degree. Going to social work, do sociology counseling, going to social work, maybe do marital counseling or family counseling from a biblical standpoint. And I was trying to finish up my degree. When we got here in 2014, it was July, and I received a book from the school that was a required course. And that book was very counterintuitive to helping people, and it was very counterintuitive to my beliefs. And so when that book arrived, I sat down, and it was my textbook, and I literally read it in about 6 hours. I sat on a couch, read through the entire textbook, and when I finished that textbook, I set it down and prayed. And when my husband got home from work, which wasn't long after that, he came in the door, and I just kind of looked over at him, and I said, I don't think I'm finishing school. I'm going to go back into real estate full time, and that's what we're going to do. And he looked at me, he's like, cool. And he said, are you going to go work with Ralph again? And I was like, yep. Is that really even a question? Yeah.
Like Hawaii. Is that even a question?
Yeah. Is that even a question? So, and he said, no, I didn't really think it was. And so, yeah, about a week or two later, I came walking through the doors. We hadn't been back in town very long at all. And, hugged Ralph and said, I'm back. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what I love about you being here at Agent Owned, and what I love about Agent Owned, like you said in the beginning, it's a very family atmosphere. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I've had a lot of different jobs over the last maybe 10 years since I've started working, I've loved all of them for certain reasons. But here, every time I came in to work, it didn't feel like work. It just felt like I was the cousin or young child helping take care of the family, and making sure that y'all had water and snacks and food and paper and and all the things in it. I tell people all the time, like, if I can just take Agent Own and move them to Atlanta and work there, I would stay there for the rest of my life, because Absolutely. It's very rare to find somewhere where every type of personality can fit in, and even if you don't agree with the morals of everybody there, you can still fit in some way somehow. With Agent Own. So how long was it between when you came back and started working full time and then you got asked to manage an office? Because that's kind of a whole nother level of responsibility. Not only are you taking care of your family and your clients, but you're also helping taking care of the company. How long was it between doing that and that?
It was a few years. So, goodness, let me think. So we got back in 2014, and so I hit the floor running in August, September of that year, and I believe it was 2019, 2020.
Okay.
When Ralph approached me about one of the offices. Ralph is broker over 4 offices, so he has broker managers for a couple of the offices, just to kind of help take on some of those phone calls, answering a lot of questions. One of the things that's so amazing and what I love about real estate is every transaction is different.
Yep.
It doesn't get boring. Okay.
Yep.
And it changes all the time.
Yep.
So I'm constantly learning something new, and I love learning. I love challenges. I love putting pieces together. So there are a lot of calls that come into a broker.
Yeah.
So one of the top things that we do is try and handle as many of those calls as we can.
Okay.
Being someone who, does 30 to 40 transactions every year.
Yeah.
I've come across a lot of things, and so I can answer.
Which is very rare and very good of you to have that, to say that number, because I tell people all the time, I'm like, the average real estate agent may close 10 a year, is not, they may close 1 or 2 houses a year and that's it. But a lot of people here, not everybody, a lot of people here are doing between 25 and 40, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy. I'm like, well, 25 is actually low for some of the people that I worked with, and 40 is pushing it, but I'm glad that you said that number, because everybody's like, oh, well, you can only do a couple at times. I'm like, no, there are people that were having 5 closings a week, and they just did it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite years are between the 25 and 30 part. I don't feel as pulled and pushed, and and you definitely have that time for each client, and that's important to me too.
Yeah.
But with having that experience level, it would just made sense that would be the next thing that I'd try and do, is to help others, help with training, help, mentoring. Right. And I love that, because there's enough business out there for anyone who really wants to work it as a business to do well.
Yeah.
And that's the key. You can't treat it really like a hobby. It's very hard to do this on the side.
Yeah.
There are some part-time agents that do well, but it's difficult. It's really, it's a business. It is a career. And when you're putting that time in, it's important. But I think it's a very important profession to have a mentor, to have somebody to pull you alongside and teach you and train you, because you're helping people make one of the biggest decisions of their life, financially especially. And so I think that's just the next logical step. I started a team back in 2018, and we were a great team for several years. And I really enjoyed that. I brought people in because I had too much business to handle, and newer agents, and that's I could train them. It was. And I could train them to kind of do the business like I did it. And most of them did very well. They enjoyed it. They loved it. And the only reason we're not a team anymore is because Agent Owned made some changes in our commission splits, and it just didn't make any sense to stay that way. But we still work together and help each other. And you know, I'm going out of town as I shared with you earlier for a couple of weeks, and those are my people. You know, hey, I can't open doors, I can't show anybody some houses while I'm gone, and they come right alongside and partner. And it's very important to have people to trust in that. Yeah. So managing has been a good step for me. I've enjoyed being able to help new agents and see them take off and see them do their business and really come alive in a very rewarding career. Yeah.
Going back for a minute, let's talk about your mentors. The one that I know of, Mr. Dick Bishop.
Oh, yes.
I haven't seen him in a long time, but talk to me about him, kind of how he mentored you, maybe a memory or two, the things that he taught you, and just the how important he was and is to you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Dick was a great surprise. Yeah. When I first came on with Agent Owned back in 2004, 2005, Ralph partnered Tracy Songer and I with Dick Bishop. And I think there were people, at least I was told, that questioned that. Mr. Dick had been in the Navy for a very long time and was a retired salty dog and had been in real estate a very long time. So rough around the edges is probably the best way to describe Dick. Yep. Very abrupt, very, very honest, a lot of integrity, great character, great stories, man. Yeah. Great stories. Yeah.
I loved when he came into the office, and he wasn't working here, but he would always get his packages. And I don't know if I've said this, but I worked here at Agent Owned for about 2 years as a receptionist, admin assistant. So I don't know if I've said that in the beginning or not, but he would come in and he'd just get his packages, and he would like, oh, well, they're not coming for another 2 or 3 hours, but I thought I'd just sit here and hang out. And he would tell me story after story after story. And most of the time he wouldn't repeat stories.
No.
I was like, all right, for an 80-something-year-old man, that's impressive.
Oh, yes. Oh, he's got the stories. I mean, just incredible. But he knew real estate. Yeah. And he was just the wealth of information. And to kind of give a little bit of a clue about Dick and his real estate career, you know, I was pretty excited the first year that I hit 48 sales in a year. Jeez. And of course, his response to me was, girl, that's what I used to do in a month. When I was your age, I had 40 a month,
no
or
pressure.
I didn't consider it successful. And I thought, all right, bud, come on.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference between him and you. You're a mom of 3 kids.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And different times. 48 deals probably only nowadays is like maybe 10 or 20, maybe. I would think, maybe.
But he was such a great mentor, and he was one that really, he helped me balance the thought of serving and giving and doing for people with also not being taken advantage of. Right. He was very, very integral in me. One of my first difficult clients was really trying to push to take advantage of me, and he insisted on meeting that client and really set that client straight in a way that I don't think I would have done at that time. I was 27 and new to the business, and again, working. Sadly, this was also a friend, working with a friend, and just didn't really know how to set that boundary of, well, this is a business deal, and we're trying to work, and I am really helping you with a lot of things. But that particular client was really pushing. And Dick said, bring them to the office. I'm going to have a sit down, and I'm going to walk you through how to do this. Yeah. And that was super important because at the time, especially at that time, just starting out, you know, one car, you know, enlisted military, we just, you know, we were barely making ends meet, and every dollar was important. Yeah. But it was also hard to, I don't know, just make myself think I am doing a job. I do need to be working toward that goal.
Yeah.
And treating it like a business.
Yeah.
So he helped me with those boundaries pretty quickly, and just always had great answers and a great story, when teaching and training us. And yeah, just amazing.
Yeah.
And I thank God every day that he's still here and still calling and still coming in and telling us his stories, and still someone I can go to when I have a question.
Yeah.
And still a reminder, I'm not the best at posting social media. I usually get behind. And I joke with people that, I don't have time for that because I am busy with real estate. I am doing the real estate. But he called me recently, and the first question out of his mouth was, "Are you still in real estate? I haven't seen a post." I thought, yes, I'm getting there. I'll get one out this weekend.
He'll keep you honest.
He will.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I guess just to wrap up, one, if you can tell me maybe talk to me about a transaction that you've had that was really difficult and you learned a really important lesson in, and then maybe on the flip side, a really fun transaction that like always just sticks out in your mind. Because we've talked about before, between you and maybe 3 or 4 other people in this office, y'all could write 2 or 3 best-selling books about just your experiences. But you learn a lot of lessons. What are some of those lessons that like maybe 1 or 2 transactions that just sticks out of your mind of like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I would do this over 1,000,000 times, and I never want to do that again.
Okay.
But you've learned a lesson in each.
Yeah. Well, probably my most difficult transaction was a client that was sent to me, and we'll call him the pool guy.
I remember this one.
Okay. He came to me as a referral from one of my home inspectors.
Yep.
And my home inspector called me and said, I'm sending somebody your way because he's fired 3 other agents.
Okay.
Which I now know is a huge red flag. So I probably won't take on clients that have, come to me and said, I've fired 3 or 4 other agents.
Yeah, there's got to be a good reason.
There's a reason for that, right? But it was an interesting transaction because, and this has just been in the last few years.
Yep.
So I had been doing real estate quite a while before.
Yep. I remember this guy very well.
Before the pool guy. But he wanted a house with a pool, and his only stipulation was that he got to test out the swimming pool before putting in an offer.
Yep.
And to tell you, I was dumbfounded at that statement and request is probably an understatement. I stood in the backyard of a house thinking, how am I going to ask a listing agent to ask her sellers if my client can go swimming in the pool? Yeah,
because there's so much liability.
There's so much
liability with just being in the house.
Being in the house.
But to test stuff out, it's just, I'm not even in the business, but I can think of 1,000,000 red flags.
Absolutely.
Right off my head.
And that's exactly where my head went, was just, and honestly, I also didn't know this person.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of my business is referral, word of mouth.
Yeah.
I don't pay for leads. It's all about taking care of my client, and then my client takes care of me.
Right.
And that's been my motto since day one.
Yeah.
I take care of you, and you're going to take care of me.
Yep.
And it has worked.
Yeah.
So I stood there thinking, is this real? Is this a real question? Am I on hidden camera?
Mm-hmm.
Does he really want to buy a house, or is it because it's a hot day in the summer and he's just looking for swimming pools?
Yeah.
My head just kind of went everywhere. And my phone rang, and it was a listing agent. And it was a listing agent that I love and know very well. We've done lots of transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And she called up and she said, hey, I just wanted to reach out and see how the showing went. How's everything going? And I paused a minute, like, do I say this? Like, he's standing here telling me this is what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And one other philosophy that I've raised my children on is, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Mm-hmm.
So
sometimes that can come back to bite you in the butt.
Sometimes that can be problematic. Exactly. So I did. I said, well, and she said, what? Does he want, blah, 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 this and that? Does he want to swim in the pool, check out the pool? And I immediately paused because we are now in the day and age of video cameras everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Everywhere. And I said, did you hear him ask me that? Are there cameras? And I looked around and I remember thinking, are there cameras? I don't remember seeing cameras, but cameras are so small now, they can be anywhere.
Yeah.
And she said, no. Are you serious? I said, literally just asked me to ask you if he can check out the pool. And she said, well, let me make a call. She made a call. She called me back and she said, as long as he's finished in the house, there are towels on the back porch.
Yeah.
Go for it. And I thought, well, this is new. This is different.
Well, I remember hearing the story. My mouth dropped to the floor.
Yep. So all in all, 5 sellers gave us permission out of 7. There were a couple that said, absolutely not. That's never going to happen.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. And then we got to the closing table. It was a rocky ride.
Yep.
That was probably one of the only people I've ever worked with that I did suggest maybe should be a renter.
Mm-hmm.
Because he shared with me that he didn't like places very long.
Mm-hmm.
And most people know that in real estate, you really want to be in a house a minimum of 2 or 3 years for you to really get a return on your investment.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense.
What can hurt you?
It could hurt you. And it just takes a little bit of time to build that equity.
Yeah.
You're almost always going to build equity, almost always.
Yeah.
But time is a big factor in that.
Yeah.
And, but we did make it to the closing table. And at the closing table, he sat across the table from me at the lawyer's office and he said, I am not going to do a review until I find something I'm unhappy with.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that blew me away. And I said, I don't really understand. He was like, well, I love the house for now, but I'm not going to do a review until I find something I'm unhappy with.
Right.
And that was...
And pin it on you.
Yeah. And that was pretty devastating. But, in this business, you can't please everybody.
Right.
You can do everything that you can, and you can do everything right.
Yeah.
And you can still have people walk away just not happy.
Yeah.
So, again, I took away from this one, if they've fired agents, they're probably not the one for me.
Yeah.
Because most people just don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to be. And we do have a lot of great agents in our area.
Yeah.
So for somebody to go through 3 of them prior to me, it just was a big statement.
Yeah. I remember he came in, and I won't give too much detail, but he came in and he was going back and forth with you of like, oh, I want to, he had to do an earnest money deposit or some type of check or whatever that he had to submit. And you were saying, okay, I need it in this form. And he was like, well, I can't do that. And blah, blah, blah. And you were like, okay, we'll just do it the way you want and we'll worry about it later. And you called me like, hey, this guy's come in. You know that you normally can't take it this way, but I've gotten approval from everybody to do it this way. And he came and he gave me the thing that he was going to give me, but it wasn't in the way that he wanted. And it was in the correct way, or maybe a different, I don't know, it was something else. And I was like, okay. And I called you and you were like, are you serious? I argued with him for so long about it. It just, and then you told me about everything else. And I was like, wow, he just was a lot, to say the least. But I remember that guy really well. And I loved working here because I learned, I wanted to do real estate for a long time, and I learned so much. Like I did the classes and I did the school and I learned that too, but I really learned how to manage people and deal with situations from you and Gio and Arlene and Aisha and Teddy and everybody else that worked here. It was like there's a lot of different ways to do things.
Yes.
And not every way works for everybody.
That's right.
That's
right. And I think that's what's so fun about people in general. When you love people, and we do, we do love people. You love people. I love people. Yeah. And not just because we're called to through Christ, but that helps us and that drives us.
Yeah.
And with the Holy Spirit, we're able to do that better. Yeah. Right.
The whole reason I'm doing this podcast is I love to sit down and talk with people. I if I could have a career in just sitting down and having a conversation with somebody, I would be rich.
Yeah.
Because I just love coming in and listening to Dick even if he told the same 5 stories over and over again, he would tell them in a different way.
Yes.
And I would get behind on my work because it would just be so, and nobody could blame me for it.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay,
yeah.
well, Dick's here. He takes precedence. You know, Rochelle's here. Let me talk with her about her day. Kyle was here and he talked to me about, like, there was always something to talk about, which I love.
And people are everyone's different.
Yeah.
And you learn to really accept that and understand it and just love people through the differences.
Yeah.
But that was a challenging one for me.
Yeah.
Probably the most challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have time for my favorite?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I know I'm a talker.
No,
so
you're good.
My favorite of probably all my transactions, and I have a lot of wonderful, smooth, amazing. I've said to people for years I have the best clients.
Yeah.
But my absolute favorite was Miss Mary. We're going to call her Miss Mary because that was her name, and I loved her. But I got a call while on vacation in the mountains. I couldn't believe the call came through, but it did, and I answered the phone, and on the other line was an agent from Florida, and I answered the phone, hello, this is Rochelle, and the other side of the phone said, ding, 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 we have a winner. And I fell right into Sue. Well, what have I won? Tell me what I've won.
Yeah.
And Mr. Larry on the other end, the agent from Florida, said to me, well, you've won a wonderful referral of the sweetest woman in the world coming to South Carolina to live near her family.
Okay.
And I got very excited. And I said, well, how did I win? And he said, just by answering the phone.
Wow.
You were the 12th agent I called, the only one to answer the phone, and the only woman that was on my list.
It's so funny that people hate technology, and yet, like, you have to have your phone on you 24/7 to do this business.
You do. You've got to answer the phone. Yeah. So I got to work with Miss Mary on a wonderful transaction, sweet as pie. My first conversation with her, she informed me that she was close to 80 years old, and she had never bought anything online in her life and was about to buy a house that way.
Okay.
And she was very excited, and we just had a great rapport, and we had a very smooth transaction. It was wonderful. I got to meet her family, but she was moving here to be near, and I do something called pop buys. Every so often I take a gift over to my clients, and Miss Mary was always so excited when I would show up that she would invite me in, and we'd sit and we'd talk, and she would take selfies and pictures and send them to her family.
Yep.
And I also do a gift every month to my clients via text.
Yep.
And it's something that they can use here in the local area, either at a restaurant or a store. And every month that she would get that gift, she would text me and say, that's going to be my son and I's date. This month. We're going to go out and get that special gift that you've sent. And my magazine, I send a magazine to my clients, and every time she'd get that magazine, she would try the recipes in it, and then she'd call and tell me about the recipes.
Yep.
And Miss Mary was probably just my most favorite client of all time. And when she passed away a couple years ago, her family called me while she was still on the way to the hospital. They called and said, please be in prayer. We're not sure yet what's happening, but it doesn't look good. And I don't know. It was just such a privilege to be able to be a part of her family, to be part of her life, to be called on to pray for her. Was huge. I don't know, just
all because you helped her get a house.
All because I helped her get a house. I mean, she just was such a wonderful, just sunny part of any time I spoke with her, and you know, monthly I spoke with her, and she just was just such a wonderful gift, and all because I answered the phone. I answered a call for an unknown number, and God just put her in my life, and it was wonderful to have her there.
That's awesome. Well, I just we're going to close out, and I really want to say thank you so much for letting me talk with you and learn a lot and reminisce as well. But on a personal level, I just want to thank you over the last couple of years of, when I was trying to make the decision of if I stay in South Carolina or go to Georgia or do all of this. And you were a very big supporter in trying to make sure that I knew to listen to what God was saying and to not worry about what others thought, because it was very hard for me to make those decisions. You were always somebody I could come to and just say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And you always had an ear ready to listen. And you were a very big person in my life to help me get to where I am today. So I want to say thank you very much for that.
You are very welcome.
It's been awesome.
Very proud of you.
Thank you so much.